This is the Ellis Martin Report and Money Talk Radio. Today I'm joined by Craig Lindsay, CEO of U.S. Operations for Resolution Minerals, trading on the ASX as RML and in the U.S. on the OTCQB as RLMLF. Resolution recently acquired the Horse Heaven project in Idaho, a polymetallic asset with gold, antimony, tungsten, and silver, all strategically critical in today's global market. With Idaho ranked as one of the top mining jurisdictions in the U.S. and with infrastructure advantages from the neighboring Perpetua Stibnite Mine, Resolution is positioning itself at the center of the domestic supply chain for both precious and critical minerals. Craig, welcome to the program. It's great to visit with you today.
Ellis, it's real good to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
I want to congratulate you on your appointment as CEO of U.S. Operations for Resolution Minerals. Congratulations, sir.
Hey, I really appreciate that. It's an exciting time for us, and what we've got ahead of us at Resolution makes it just professionally a very exciting time for me personally.
Now, give us an overview of the company and tell us how you became involved.
Sure. So Resolution Minerals is listed on the Australian Stock Exchange under the symbol RML. We also have an OTCQB listing in the United States, RLMLF. It's a mineral exploration and development company. They had acquired a couple of antimony and gold projects in Australia. They had decided critical metals were an area where they wanted to get exposure to, so they picked up a couple of projects down in Australia. I was part of a selling group that came to them with an asset in the United States with gold, with antimony, with tungsten, and they got quite interested in that. So I was part of the group that sold the Horse Heaven asset to them a couple of months ago that the transaction closed. And so now they've really refocused their efforts on growing this Horse Heaven asset in Idaho.
Now, you mentioned that the Horse Heaven project is polymetallic and gold, antimony, tungsten, and silver. Why do all these minerals matter right now?
Great question. A couple of different things. Number one, antimony and tungsten are in great demand. And as your listeners may know, if they follow the critical metal space, the United States has no domestic production of antimony, number one. Number two, China has canceled any sales to the United States of antimony. So there's a critical supply gap in the United States for antimony. Antimony is used a lot in renewables, solar panels, that sort of thing, but it has the biggest story around it is in the defense sector. So just from national security perspective, the United States is very keen, without any supply from China, on developing domestic supplies. And then the gold perspective, gold is running. It's over $3,400 an ounce. And there's just a lot of interest in that side of things from a commodity perspective. And I think just as importantly, we are immediately adjacent to Perpetua's Stibnite Mine. And the Stibnite Mine is going to produce something in the region of 350,000 ounces of gold a year out of an open pit. And it's also a byproduct of there is antimony. And they're going to produce, for the first 4 years of their mine, 30 to 35% of the United States antimony requirements. And our geology at Horse Heaven is exactly the same as they have over at the Stibnite Mine. It's an intrusion-related gold system, and it's associated with a significant buried intrusion that comes up to the surface in the form of doming, and it's that intrusion lies immediately equidistant between the Horse Heaven project and the Stibnite Mine. We're going to benefit from the infrastructure that is going in to develop the Stibnite Mine. Specifically, they're building a new access road, all-weather, all-year-round access road into Stibnite, and that is going to run right along the southern edge of the Horse Heaven project. And secondly, they're upgrading the transmission line over to Stibnite, and that transmission line is a high voltage line that'll run right across our project. So again, we're going to benefit from a lot of the infrastructure that's going into the Stibnite Mine.
That Stibnite Mine, that's a $2 billion mine at the moment. Why haven't they acquired the ground you've got right now? How did you manage to keep it and then vend it over to Resolution?
That's a great question. I can't speak for the Perpetua guys, but I can tell you my thoughts on it. Anyone who follows the Perpetua story, it's a fantastic one. They've got a very significant gold endowment. It's 4.5 million ounces of gold, and it's got this antimony. But they had spent a lot of time going through a significant permitting process because of some environmental challenges challenges associated with prior operations at the Stibnite mine. Perpetua was very focused on permitting over the last 10 years, number one. Number two, if you talk to the Perpetua guys, and it's actually very true, there's a lot of room for them to grow their deposit beyond where it's at right now. Two things, they were focused on permitting, number one, and number two, they looked at their piece of dirt and said, hey, we've already got 4.5 million ounces of gold, and we've got a lot of room to grow from an exploration perspective. Do we really need another 14,000 acres adjacent to us? So I think that was the reality. And then when they got their permit in January, it was 2 thumbs up, and the market said, okay, you can permit in this area. The Stibnite mine finally has got their record of decision. They're going to be building a mine there. And instantly, Horse Heaven was suddenly a much more valuable commodity because some of the permitting risk has been taken away.
Let's talk about permitting in Idaho, and Idaho as a jurisdiction in general. From what I know, it's one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I think that the Fraser Institute ranks it the number 6 mining jurisdiction in the United States, and it's number 20 globally. It's got a very good reputation. Your listeners may or may not know this, but long history of mining in the state. You've got up in the northwestern portion of the state, we call it the Idaho Panhandle. You've got high-grade underground silver mines. In the southeastern portion of the state, you've got open-pit phosphate mines. Guys like Monsanto and Agrium have been mining there for years, and they continue to expand their pits. You've got molybdenum in the center of the state with Thompson Creek, which is a very large operation. And then you've got a lot of guys in the gold space. So Integra operating the Delamar project. You've got Liberty Gold with Black Pine. You've got Exelon Resources with the Kilgore project, which is something I was very familiar with. Lots going on in the state from a mining, exploration, development perspective. It's a Republican state, so it's very business friendly. Brad Little, the governor of the state of Idaho, recently put in something called the SPEED Act. And the SPEED Act, he's trying to reduce permitting timelines in the state by getting the federal permitting authorities to speak with the state permitting people and the local level and get people to permit on a parallel basis rather than one after the other and get boxes ticked faster. So that's extremely positive. It really is a great mining state. Infrastructure is really good. Lots going on, lots of eyeballs. And when you have a company like Perpetua with a $2 billion market cap, their capex for the Stibnite project is over $2 billion. They've got a record of decision. They're in a financing mode right now. They look to break ground in 2026. There's just going to be a lot of eyeballs on that story. Paulson and Company's heavily invested in it. Lots of institutions have exposure to Stibnite, and those eyeballs that are on Stibnite, we hope are going to cast a little bit westward right next door and have a look at what we're doing at Horse Heaven.
Let's take a look at this from an investor standpoint of view. You've just listed on the OTCQB, and really you're available for pennies right now. And your goal is to NASDAQ uplist, and as far as I remember, that's about a $2 mark. How do you manage to cross that bridge?
Let's take a step back here. We are listed on the Australian Stock Exchange under the symbol RML. We've got about 1.2 billion shares outstanding. North American investors got 1.2 billion shares. Consolidation is coming. Those are people who are not familiar with the Australian market where multi-billion dollar share counts are standard. That company, we trade probably 75 million shares a day in Australia. The liquidity is good. We've had some very good uptake from Australian investors. When the deal was announced, we were probably a penny and a half. We're up to 6 cents Australian. And we've taken this approach to list on the QB as a first step. And it's a logical step, Ellis, because this project is in the United States. The U.S. government is totally focused on the growth of the critical metals market. It's fairly logical for us to try and develop a following of American investors. It's a much larger pool of capital in the U.S. It really dwarfs Australia, and it's just a logical step for us to do the QB. And then, going to NASDAQ it's a big deep breath, and it's time to go. But with the plans that we have in terms of exploration and development, the capital that we're going to require to do this, NASDAQ is a logical place for us to go. We're early in the process. We haven't put applications in, etc. All we've done at this point is retain Roth Capital, who many of your listeners may have heard of, to assist with this process. And I don't want to speak to capital structure at this stage because it's too premature, but you will see likely some changes in capital structure to allow us to move on to NASDAQ. But it's going to be an exciting step and a logical step for the company.
Offtake, where are we headed? Is it too early to have conversations with the Department of Energy or the Department of Defense?
Yeah, it's actually a great question. The answer to the question is no, it's not too early. So we have retained a company called Thorn Run Partners. They're a top 10 lobbyist firm based out of Washington, D.C. And so they are going to help us with that process of marketing our story to both the Idaho delegation, number one, and that would be the two Idaho senators, congressmen. So there's two senators and there's two Idaho representatives in Congress that will be marketing ourselves to. And secondly, and just as importantly, to the Department of Energy, the Department of Defense. So they'll be helping us with the door opening, the marketing, the sales, introducing the story to those folks with a view ultimately to seeing what kind of capital may be available through the big beautiful bill and the $5 billion that's been made available for the development of critical metals projects in the U.S. So the answer to that is no, it's not too early, but it will be a process and it'll take some time for that to happen, but we've already started that process.
I know that Governor Little, who you mentioned earlier, is an advocate for the mining industry and very accessible, so I imagine he will have some pull in the matter as well. Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, yes. I think what you want to do is introduce your story to the Idaho delegation, to the governor's office, and explain to them what you're doing. Talk to them about the project. Talk to them about potential economic benefits for the state of Idaho, why there's a rational argument to support an application for grant money, and get them on board for that. And hopefully they would be an advocate for the project in DC.
How would you summarize Resolution's short to midterm growth thesis? What can we look for? What can we track in the coming months?
So we've just kicked off a small drill program. We're going to do 10 to 20 holes, and that's ongoing. We've got a drill spinning out at the project right now. So you'll see drill results coming out over the next 6 months. Next year, we look to drill about 40 to 50,000 feet at Horse Heaven. So this 2025 will be a smaller exploration footprint. Next year will be a much larger, just because we'll have more time to, number one, raise capital, but also get drills organized and out there. So we'll have 2 drills out there next year. We're going to be doing some metallurgical testing, both on core that's produced from the drilling program that's ongoing right now. Secondly, we've got tungsten ore dumps that are on site, and we'll be doing some met testing on those. Something I don't think we've talked about today, and it's super relevant. And one of the reasons I think a lot of people are excited about the project is Horse Heaven produced historically antimony. So in World War I, World War II, into the Korean War, they produced antimony out of an open pit at something we call Antimony Ridge. And secondly, there's an old tungsten mine that produced historically right up to around 1980. And that initially started out as an open pit, and then they actually went underground. And it was a big enough operation that there's a tungsten mill that was built on site at the bottom of our project called the Johnson Creek Mill. And in addition to that, there is a historic non-43-101 compliant gold resource on the property, ranging in between about 200 and 300,000 ounces of gold, Ellis. And you're a mining guy, so you'll understand this, but there was 2 drill programs that were done on the property in 86, 87, and 1994. And that was done at a target that we call Golden Gate, which is where we're drilling right now. And at the time, they only drilled 500-foot holes. So they were looking for shallow oxide gold mineralization. So when they hit the oxide sulfide boundary, they would just stop. So the drilling program that we're doing this year, we're doing 1,000-foot holes. So we'll punch through that oxide sulfide boundary into deeper material. So there's an ability for us to grow the deposit at depth. And it's a Golden Gate alone is 3 kilometers long and a half kilometer wide. So that one target that we're drilling, I think, and I'm arm waving here, 2 to 3 million ounce potential that I see out there at Golden Gate itself. And then we've got all the other targets as well. So lots going on. It's an exciting time to be. We're in the right place being in Idaho and right next door to Perpetua. Number two, we're in the right commodity, being critical metals. Number three, we've got a real strong exploration team on site. One of the guys that's working with us, Austin Zinsser, has been an exploration geologist at Perpetua for 12 years, so he understands the rocks intimately. Bill Breen, who some of your listeners may be aware of, Bill's been associated with the project for 12 years. Bill has worked with Freeport-McMoran, he's worked with Teck, he's worked with Newmont, he's the mayor of the town in Idaho that he lives in Hope, Idaho. Wonderful guy, really strong relationships in Idaho. We've got a guy named Alan Roberts who's running the drill program on the ground, really strong from a logistical perspective. Eric Klepfer is running our permitting, and that's a big piece of what we're doing. You asked about what else we're doing. In the background, we're going to be updating our plan of operation to allow us to do a much larger exploration program out at the project in coming years. So just a lot going on, exciting time. Yeah, I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, working my Eastern hours, and Australia starts work at my kind of 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So I'm taking calls again at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, and loving it. It's a lot of fun.
I was just going to say, I've known you for a while. You love it. You're not complaining. You like it.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but I started my career in Asia. So I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong as a young guy. And then I came back to Canada and I was a partner in a company in Hong Kong. And so for years I worked North American hours and then just rolled right into Asian hours. So it's not necessarily something that everyone wants to be doing at my age, but I like it. I still got kids in university, and there's a lot of birds chirping in our household, so got to keep working, Ellis.
I've been speaking with Craig Lindsay, CEO of U.S. Operations for Resolution Minerals, trading on the ASX as RML and in the U.S. on the OTCQB as RLMLF. To learn more about the company and its flagship Horse Heaven project in Idaho, visit resolutionminerals.com. Craig, thanks for joining me today. We'll be following your progress closely here on the Ellis Martin Report and Money Talk Radio.
Hey, really appreciate you having me, Ellis, and it's great to reconnect. Fantastic to chat with you.